End times prophecies fulfilled, Sea of Galilee turned red. You will be shocked when you find the 3 discoveries about this strange event. Discovery 1. The Red Sea Shocking News. August 15th, 2025, 6:47 a.m. local time. Something happened to the Sea of Galilee. The most sacred lake in Christianity turned blood red, as if someone had poured crimson dye into 64 square miles of pristine water overnight. This story has had many people wondering, is this a fulfillment of end times prophecy? Is the water turning to blood? But here's what makes this story even more unsettling. This isn't an isolated incident. In fact, I'm about to reveal 5 separate locations around the world where water has mysteriously turned the color of blood. And what I discovered about the true cause will shock you. What I'm about to share with you is happening right now, across multiple continents, and most people have no idea how widespread this phenomenon has become. A canal in Nootdorp, the Netherlands, blood red. Bondi Beach in Australia, blood red. The Beirut River in Lebanon, blood red. A river in Zhejiang Province, China, blood red. And here's the one that really got my attention. Rainfall in Sawanagala, Sri Lanka came down looking like blood itself. Now, before I reveal what's really behind these mysterious events, let me ask you something that might keep you up tonight. Could these be the biblical signs we've been warned about for thousands of years? Here's where things get fascinating and terrifying. The Bible doesn't just mention water turning to blood once or twice. It's actually a recurring theme that appears at the most critical moments in human history. And what's described sounds exactly like what we're seeing today. But wait, there's something specific about these prophecies that most people miss. Something that will determine whether we're actually living through the end times or witnessing something else entirely. I'll reveal that crucial detail in just a moment. First, let's examine what the ancient texts actually say, because the specifics matter more than you might think. The book of Revelation warns us that during the second trumpet judgment, something catastrophic will happen. The second angel sounded his trumpet, and something like a huge mountain, all ablaze, was thrown into the sea. A third of the sea turned into blood. A third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. Revelation 8:8-9. But that's not all. The prophecy gets even more intense. Later, in Revelation 16:3, we're told about an even more devastating event. The second angel poured out his bowl on the sea, and it turned into blood like that of a dead person, and every living thing in the sea died. And here's where it gets personal for every human being on earth. The prophecy continues in verses 4-6. The third angel poured out his bowl on the rivers and springs of water, and they became blood. Then I heard the angel in charge of the waters say, "You are just in these judgments, O Holy One, you who are and who were, for they have shed the blood of your holy people and your prophets, and you have given them blood to drink as they deserve." Think about that for a second. Not just the oceans, the fresh water supply, rivers, springs, everything we depend on to survive. But there's more. Revelation 11:6 tells us about 2 special witnesses during the tribulation. They have power to turn the waters into blood and to strike the earth with every kind of plague as often as they want. This same power was given to Moses, who turned the Nile River to blood in Exodus 7:20. Now here's the question that's probably burning in your mind. Are we seeing these prophecies come to pass right now? Here's what I discovered when I dug deeper into this mystery. and it's the key to understanding everything we're witnessing today. The modern reports of blood-red water are missing something crucial, something that would definitively prove we're in the end times. Let me show you why the timing doesn't add up. You see, the tribulation period described in Revelation follows a very specific sequence. It's not random chaos. It's an ordered series of judgments. And here's what most people don't realize. The sea turning to blood at the third trumpet judgment comes after trumpets 1 and 2 have already sounded. What does that mean? Well, the first trumpet will involve hail and fire and blood raining down on the earth. The second will cause a third of the trees and all of the grass to be burned up. Look outside your window right now. Has any of that happened yet? The answer tells you everything you need to know about whether we're truly in the tribulation. And the bold judgments that turn both sea and fresh water to blood? Those come even later in the sequence. So if these recent blood-red water events aren't fulfillments of biblical prophecy, what's really going on? The answer involves 3 distinct possibilities, and the third one might surprise you. Here's what's actually happening, and why understanding this could save your life if you ever encounter blood-red water yourself. Sometimes, nature creates phenomena so dramatic they seem supernatural. When water suddenly turns blood red, it's often due to something called an algal bloom, or what scientists call a red tide. Here's how it works. When environmental conditions align perfectly, temperature, nutrients, sunlight, colonies of algae explode in population. These microscopic organisms contain pigments that, in massive concentrations, literally dye the water red. It can happen in both fresh water and salt water. The red water in Nootdorp, the Netherlands? Scientists confirmed it was exactly this natural phenomenon. But here's what makes this unsettling. These blooms are becoming more frequent, and no one fully understands why. The man-made explanation. Sometimes, the truth is more sinister than supernatural. In several cases, that blood-red color comes from human activity, specifically illegal dumping of industrial chemicals. The river in Zhejiang province, China, turned crimson because someone was secretly dumping red dye into the water supply. Think about that. Someone deliberately poisoned an entire river system. The Beirut River in Lebanon sparked a government investigation that traced the red coloration back to a factory releasing chemicals into the water. These weren't accidents. These were deliberate acts that endangered entire communities. Discovery 2. The Euphrates connection, when geography becomes prophecy. But perhaps the most startling discovery came from satellite imagery analysis of another prophetically significant body of water, the Euphrates River. Since 2022, the Euphrates has been dropping to historically low levels. Water flow has decreased by over 70% compared to normal levels. Archaeological sites that were underwater for millennia have been exposed. The Euphrates River is drying up. Are we witnessing the end times? What if I told you that one of the most important rivers in human history, a river that's flowed for thousands of years through the cradle of civilization, is vanishing before our eyes? And what if I told you that this exact event was predicted in ancient prophecies as a sign that the final battle for humanity is about to begin? You're about to discover something that mainstream media isn't telling you about the Euphrates River. Something that's happening right now as we speak, and it's revealing secrets that have been buried for millennia. But here's what will really grab your attention. The Bible doesn't just mention this river drying up once. It actually provides us with a detailed roadmap of exactly when and why this will happen. And what comes next will determine the fate of every person on earth. Let me paint you a picture of what we're dealing with here. The Euphrates River has been the lifeblood of the Middle East for over 4,000 years. This isn't just any river. This is part of the legendary Fertile Crescent, the birthplace of human civilization itself. It flows through Turkey, Syria, and Iraq, sustaining millions of lives. But over the past few years, something unprecedented has been happening. The water levels have dropped so dramatically that ancient ruins are being exposed for the first time in centuries. Caves that haven't seen daylight since biblical times are now visible. Archaeological treasures are emerging from what used to be the riverbed. And here's what has Bible scholars around the world sitting up and taking notice. This exact scenario was predicted thousands of years ago, down to the smallest detail. The question everyone's asking is this: are we witnessing prophecy unfold in real time? Now, I need you to pay close attention to what I'm about to reveal, because the Bible gives us not one, but two distinct prophecies about the Euphrates River drying up. And understanding the difference between them could be the key to knowing where we are on the prophetic timeline. The first prediction appears in one of the most dramatic judgment oracles ever written. God is pronouncing judgment against ancient Babylon, against its officials, wise men, false prophets, warriors, horses, chariots, and treasures. And then, like a final devastating blow, God declares a drought on her waters. They will dry up, for it is a land of idols, idols that will go mad with terror. Jeremiah 50:38. The waters of Babylon? That's the Euphrates and Tigris rivers. Both rivers are drying up right now. Coincidence? Keep listening, because it gets much more intense. The second prediction comes from the book of Revelation, and what it describes will send chills down your spine. Here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. The book of Revelation doesn't just describe random judgments. It lays out a precise sequence of events that will unfold during the 7-year tribulation period. And the drying of the Euphrates plays a crucial role in the grand finale. Picture this. The judgments start with 7 seals being broken, Revelation 6:1-17, 8:1-5. Then 7 trumpets sound, each bringing devastating plagues, Revelation 8:6-9:21, 11:15-19. Finally, 7 bowls of God's wrath are poured out, Revelation 16:1-21. But here's what makes this terrifying. These bowl judgments are so destructive that, if they continued, every human being on earth would die. Mark 13:19-20. The 6th bowl judgment, the second to last judgment of the entire tribulation, targets the Euphrates River specifically. Revelation 16:12 reveals exactly what will happen. The 6th angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up to prepare the way for the kings from the east. But wait, there's a strategic reason for this that will blow your mind. The river isn't dried up randomly. It's being prepared as a highway. A highway for what? For a massive army from the east to march toward their destiny. And where are they marching? To the place that in Hebrew is called Armageddon. Revelation 16:16. That's right. The drying of the Euphrates is the final setup for the Battle of Armageddon, the ultimate showdown between good and evil, where Jesus returns and destroys all of God's enemies. Revelation 16:17-20, 19:11-21. Now here's the million-dollar question. Is what we're seeing today the beginning of this prophetic fulfillment? 5 clues that reveal the truth. Possibility number 1. Ancient history repeating. Some scholars believe Jeremiah's prophecy was already fulfilled back in 539 BC. Here's the fascinating backstory. The Persian king Cyrus wanted to conquer Babylon, but the city seemed impregnable. So what did he do? According to the Greek historian Herodotus, Cyrus diverted the Euphrates River just enough to allow his army to sneak into the city through the water channels under the walls. Brilliant military strategy? Absolutely. Fulfillment of biblical prophecy? Possibly. Possibility number 2. Lost in time. The prophecy might have been fulfilled by a natural drought at some unknown point in history. Ancient records aren't complete, and significant droughts could have occurred without being properly documented. Possibility number 3. Right here, right now. What if we're witnessing Jeremiah's prophecy being fulfilled as the Tigris and Euphrates rivers diminish before our eyes? The timing would be remarkable, considering everything else happening in our world today. Possibility number 4. Still to come. Perhaps. Jeremiah's prophecy is actually connected to the end times events described in Revelation, and both will be fulfilled during the Great Tribulation that's still ahead of us. Possibility number 5. The double fulfillment. Here's a possibility that keeps many prophecy experts awake at night. What if the prophecy has a double fulfillment? Once in the past, as a warning and demonstration of God's power, and again in the future during the end times as the final judgment? But regarding the Revelation prophecy about the Euphrates drying up, that one has a definitive timeline. And what I'm about to tell you will either give you peace of mind or cause you to start preparing for what's coming. The 3 unmistakable signs. We're not there yet. Here's how you can know with certainty whether we're experiencing the end times drying of the Euphrates described in Revelation. I'm going to give you 3 clear indicators that will settle this question once and for all. Sign number 1. The sequence is everything. The 6th bowl judgment doesn't happen in isolation. It comes near the very end of a 7-year tribulation period. Before this supernatural drying occurs, the Antichrist must rise to power globally. 2 miracle-working prophets must appear in Jerusalem and preach for 1,260 days. Devastating judgments must ravage the earth in a specific order. Look around you right now. Has any of that happened yet? The answer tells you everything you need to know about our current timeline. Sign number 2. The commerce connection. Here's a detail most people miss. According to Revelation 18:17-19, during the tribulation period, Babylon will be conducting massive commercial shipping operations. The prophecy specifically mentions commerce by ship, which means the rivers in that area must be flowing freely during the tribulation, at least until the very end. If the rivers are already dried up now, how could this future commerce be possible? Sign number 3. The Eastern Army, the supernatural drying of the Euphrates, in Revelation 16:12, serves one specific purpose: to create a pathway for the kings from the east to bring their army westward toward Israel. This isn't a metaphor, it's describing a literal military invasion involving millions of soldiers. Right now, today, is there a massive Eastern army threatening to march toward Israel? Are world leaders gathering their forces for a final assault on the Holy Land? The current geopolitical situation, complex as it is, doesn't match this specific prophetic scenario. Here's what you need to understand. When the time comes for the Battle of Armageddon, the Euphrates River will indeed dry up completely and supernaturally. the current water level changes, the revealing of ancient ruins and caves, fascinating as they are, have nothing to do with Revelation 16:12. The biblical timeline simply hasn't reached that point yet. But here's what should capture your attention. The fact that we're already seeing dramatic changes to this prophetically significant river should remind us that the events described in Scripture are not fairy tales. They're future realities that will unfold exactly as written. The Euphrates River has been a witness to human history for millennia. It has seen the rise and fall of empires, the birth of civilizations, and the fulfillment of ancient prophecies. And one day, perhaps sooner than we think, it will play its final prophetic role as the highway that enables the last great battle of human history. Until then, every drop in its water level serves as a reminder that the God who spoke these prophecies thousands of years ago is still in control of rivers, nations, and the ultimate destiny of our world. The Sea of Galilee isn't just any body of water. It's the geographic center of Jesus' earthly ministry, the location where he walked on water, calmed storms, and called his disciples. The place where divine miracles involving water were first demonstrated to humanity. For this specific lake to turn blood red carries significance that no other water body could match. But the prophetic significance extends beyond historical importance. Current geopolitical developments in Israel suggest that we're watching the convergence of spiritual signs with political preparations for end times events. Recent archaeological discoveries beneath the Temple Mount have accelerated Jewish interest in temple reconstruction. International pressure on Israel has intensified exactly as biblical prophecy predicts. Peace treaty negotiations involving multiple Middle Eastern nations are proceeding along lines that match Daniel's prophecy about the Antichrist confirming a covenant with many. The physical signs occurring in Israel's most spiritually significant locations are happening while political developments prepare the stage for end times prophecy fulfillment. It's as if heaven and earth are being synchronized for the final act of human history. All roads lead to Jerusalem. But when you map all the current supernatural events geographically, a pattern emerges that should make every believer's heart race. Bible end times prophecy about the Dead Sea is finally happening, and Christians are shocked. What is the Bible prophecy occurring at the Dead Sea? And what does it mean? Although it may look like an ordinary body of water, it is not. For centuries, the Dead Sea has stood as a symbol of desolation, a place so salty and barren that no life could survive in its waters. But now, something extraordinary is happening. Strange new life has emerged in its depths. What particular prophecies did the Bible give? Some people who have traveled to the Dead Sea have noted that it is the strangest lake that they have ever seen. Located in the heart of the Middle East, the Dead Sea is more than just a natural wonder. It's a place of history, mystery, and biblical significance. Although many locations from the Bible times might be lost, the lake still stands in its original location. It is flanked by Israel to the west and Jordan to the east. Another interesting fact is that the Dead Sea has the lowest elevation and is the lowest body of water on the surface of Earth. And thousands of years ago, a prediction was made about this lake. It was a prediction that seemed impossible until now. You see, the Dead Sea has a limitation. It is not able to sustain life. This is the truth that has been confirmed for centuries. Its only use in the ancient times was salt. There were no hopes of fishing or farming when it came to this lake, but recently this all changed. The river was always inhabitable, as the water here is almost 10 times saltier than the ocean. It's so dense with minerals that you can literally float without even trying. But this extreme saltiness also makes it nearly impossible for most forms of life to survive. That's why it's called the Dead Sea. But now things are changing. Over the past several decades, the Dead Sea has been shrinking at an alarming rate. Its water levels have dropped dramatically. It's hard to look at this and not feel a sense of wonder. In the midst of one of the harshest environments on Earth, life is beginning to emerge. Many believe that the Dead Sea truly became dead and sick after the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, two cities judged for their wickedness, a barren wasteland, a haunting testament to divine judgment. But did God promise to heal this river? And that's what makes what's happening here so incredible. For centuries, the Dead Sea was seen as a symbol of desolation. But now, life is beginning to reappear. And for many Christians, this isn't just a scientific anomaly. It's a sign of something much greater. There was a man that saw this happening centuries ago, and his name was Ezekiel. When God summoned Ezekiel to be a prophet, he was a young priest living as an exile in Babylon. This was a major change. A priest's responsibility was to go before God on behalf of the people. Priests have a difficult but relatively simple job. Prophets had a considerably more challenging task. A prophet went to the people on behalf of God. His responsibility was to say, "Thus says the Lord." As a prophet stood before the people and declared God's judgments, he also had to show that what God was doing was righteous and just. His goal was to encourage the people and offer them a message of hope if they were prepared to listen to his word from the Lord. This was the task God assigned to Ezekiel. Ezekiel saw visions of God, and the word of the Lord came directly to him. What he saw was astounding. Ezekiel was taken to Jerusalem in a vision. It is almost the last prophecy dated, and many years after the fall of Jerusalem. Ezekiel insisted the source of this extended prophecy was God. Yahweh was the source of the minute and sometimes strange detail of this prophecy. And on this vision, he had a mysterious guide. A man whose appearance was like the appearance of bronze. Can you even imagine that figure? There is a particular theory on who exactly this was, but for now, let us go back to the vision. The man said to me, "Son of man, look with your eyes, and hear with your ears, and fix your mind on everything I show you. For you were brought here, so that I might show them to you. Declare to the house of Israel everything you see." Led to the door of the temple, Ezekiel saw something that never existed in the temple before, a river flowing directly from the temple. Then he, my guide, brought me back to the door of the house. And behold, water was flowing from under the threshold of the house, temple, toward the east. For the front of the temple was facing east, and the water was flowing down from under, from the right side of the house, from south of the altar. Then he brought me out by way of the north gate, and led me around on the outside to the outer gate by the way of the gate that faces east. And behold, water was spurting out from the south side of the gate. When the man went out toward the east with a measuring line in his hand, he measured 1,000 cubits, and he led me through the water that was ankle deep. Again, he measured 1,000 cubits, and led me through the water that was knee deep. Again, he measured 1,000 cubits, and led me through the water reaching the hips. Again, he measured 1,000 cubits, and it was a river that I could not pass through, for the water had risen, enough water to swim in, a river that could not be crossed by wading. And he said to me, "Son of man, have you seen this?" Then he brought me back to the bank of the river. Now, when I had returned, behold, on the bank of the river were very many trees on the one side and on the other. Then he said to me, "These waters go out toward the eastern region and go down into the Arabah, the Jordan Valley. Then they go toward the sea, being made to flow into the sea, and the waters of the Dead Sea shall be healed and become fresh. It will come about that every living creature which swarms in every place where the river goes will live. And there will be a very great number of fish, because these waters go there so that the waters of the sea are healed and become fresh. So everything will live wherever the river goes. And it will come about that fishermen will stand beside it, at the banks of the Dead Sea. From En-Gedi to Eneglaim, there will be dry places to spread nets. Their fish will be of very many kinds, like the fish of the great Mediterranean Sea. But its swamps and marshes will not become fresh and wholesome for animal life. They will, as the river subsides, be left encrusted with salt. By the river on its bank, on one side and on the other, will grow all kinds of trees for food. Their leaves will not wither, and their fruit will not fail. They shall bear every month because their water flows from the sanctuary, and their fruit will be for food, and their leaves for healing." In all of its history, Jerusalem never had a big, strong river like this. There were small streams and springs, but never a powerful, flowing river, especially not from this part of the city. In Israel's dry and dusty land, a river like this would be both a huge blessing and a miracle. It would bring life, growth, energy, refreshment, hope, and safety. The Bible says that at first the water came out very slowly. It didn't gush or pour, it dripped out little by little. It started so small that it only came out drop by drop. But as it flowed, it grew bigger and stronger. Ezekiel followed the river with his guide. They walked about 1/3 of a mile, or half a kilometer, from where the river seemed to start, probably at the temple. Ezekiel didn't just watch the river, he went into the water with his guide. This wasn't just something for him to look at or think about, it was something for him to experience and be part of. We see that the water first came up to Ezekiel's ankles, then to his knees, and then to his waist. As they went farther, the river got deeper each time. Ezekiel didn't force himself into the water. He experienced it exactly as it was. The waters of this river are said to have been miraculously healed. At the time, this vision must have seemed impossible. The Dead Sea was, and still is, one of the harshest environments on Earth. What's happening here has left scientists and believers alike in awe. Is this simply nature adapting in unexpected ways? Or is it a tangible sign of prophecy coming to life before our eyes? Ezekiel's vision wasn't just about geography, it was about God's power to restore and renew. The Dead Sea represents more than a body of water. It symbolizes hopelessness, desolation, and the consequences of sin. But God's promise is that even the most lifeless places can be made new. One of the most striking modern discoveries came from Samantha Siegel, a Jerusalem resident who spotted fish swimming in a freshwater pool along the Dead Sea's edge. For her, this was more than just a scientific oddity. It was a deeply spiritual moment, a living testament to the prophecies she grew up reading. A woman reported, "When I saw those fish, I couldn't believe my eyes. This is the Dead Sea. It's not supposed to have life." But there they were, swimming and thriving. It felt like I was standing in the middle of a prophecy coming true. Even more astonishing, she also saw ducks nesting near these freshwater pools. Another sign of life returning to a place long thought dead. For her and many others, these moments aren't just coincidences. They're glimpses of God's hand at work. Whatever the explanation, the parallels to Ezekiel's prophecy are impossible to ignore. A sea once thought dead is slowly coming alive, and it's happening in ways no one expected. Is this the fulfillment of God's promise? Or is it just the beginning of something even greater? Birds, too, have found a home here. Their presence suggests that the transformation of this region isn't just limited to the water. It's reshaping the entire ecosystem. Migratory birds now stop here, drawn by the unexpected abundance of food and water. Even the barren soil surrounding these sinkholes is beginning to change. Plants are taking root, creating patches of greenery in an otherwise stark landscape. These small oases stand in stark contrast to the surrounding salt flats, almost as if nature is reclaiming what was once thought lost. Think about this. Ezekiel's prophecy was written over 2,500 years ago. Yet he described a vision of fishermen casting their nets and catching an abundance of fish here. Today, we're seeing the beginnings of that vision come to life. Fishermen haven't fully returned to the Dead Sea yet, but signs of their eventual presence are undeniable. Small fish, plants, and birds are reclaiming this space, just as the Bible foretold. It's a breathtaking reminder of God's power to bring life where there was none. But is this purely a natural process? Or is this part of a larger divine plan? Many believers see these changes not as coincidence, but as a fulfillment of prophecy, a tangible sign that God's promises are unfolding in real time. Zechariah's words echo a similar theme. He speaks of living water flowing from Jerusalem, healing the Dead Sea, and making it a place of abundance. These prophecies were written in a time when such a transformation seemed impossible. Yet today, we are witnessing changes that mirror their descriptions. A local resident noted, "I've lived near the Dead Sea my whole life, and I never thought I'd see fish swimming here or plants growing along its shores. It feels like something bigger is happening, like a promise from God is being fulfilled before our eyes." Ezekiel's vision reminds us that no place is too desolate, no situation too hopeless for God to restore. The changes we're seeing in the Dead Sea are a powerful reminder that His promises are true, and His plans are unfolding in ways we may not fully understand. So, what do these changes mean for us today? Are they a message from God? A reminder of His faithfulness? Or are they a call to prepare for something greater? The answers may not be clear, but one thing is certain. The Dead Sea's transformation is a story of hope, renewal, and the fulfillment of promises that go far beyond what we can see.